The distress signal. The bridge of the UES Prometheus hummed with quiet efficiency as Commander Elena Vasquez reviewed patrol reports from the Outer Rim territories. Her dark eyes scanned the holographic displays floating before her command chair, each one showing the vast emptiness of space that stretched between human colonies and the unknown regions beyond. The third watch was always peaceful, a time when most of the crew caught up on maintenance tasks or grabbed precious sleep between shifts. Lieutenant Sarah Kim monitored the communications array from her station, occasionally glancing at the star charts that marked their current position near the edge of explored space. The Prometheus was one of Earth's newest exploration vessels, equipped with the latest quantum sensors and diplomatic protocols for first contact situations. Their mission was simple: patrol the frontier, investigate anomalies, and serve as humanity's eyes and ears in the great unknown. Everything changed when the quantum communicator began emitting a sound none of them had heard before. The alert tone was different from standard communications, deeper and more complex, like a musical chord played in reverse. Lieutenant Kim straightened in her chair, her fingers dancing across the control panel as she tried to isolate the source. The sound grew stronger, more insistent, and strange symbols began appearing on her secondary screen. "Commander," Kim called out, her voice cutting through the bridge's quiet atmosphere. "I'm receiving something unusual. It's not on any of our standard frequencies, and the encryption is unlike anything in our databases." Vasquez stood and moved to the communication station, her boots silent on the bridge's polished floor. At 42, she had spent nearly 2 decades in Earth's fleet, working her way up from a junior officer on cargo runs to commanding one of humanity's most advanced ships. Her experience had taught her to trust her instincts, and something about this signal made her nervous. "What kind of encryption are we looking at?" she asked, studying the cascade of symbols flowing across Kim's screen. "Quantum level, Commander. Whoever sent this has technology that's at least equal to ours, possibly more advanced. The signal is also incredibly powerful. It's being broadcast on multiple quantum frequencies simultaneously, which would require enormous energy reserves." Dr. James Chen, the ship's xenolinguist and first contact specialist, approached from his station near the science console. His expertise in alien languages and communication protocols had made him invaluable during humanity's expansion into space, though actual contact with alien species had been limited to a few brief encounters with traders and refugees. "May I examine the signal pattern, Commander?" Chen asked, adjusting his glasses as he peered at the display. His analytical mind was already working on the problem, searching for patterns and linguistic structures that might provide clues about the signal's origin. Vasquez nodded, and Chen took position at Kim's station. His fingers moved quickly across the interface, running the signal through various analysis programs, while muttering to himself in 3 different languages. The symbols on the screen shifted as he adjusted the parameters, and slowly recognizable patterns began to emerge. "This is remarkable," Chen said after several minutes of intense concentration. "The mathematical foundation is based on quantum mechanics, but the linguistic structure suggests a species with highly advanced peaceful intentions. The signal is formatted as a universal greeting followed by what appears to be an urgent request for assistance." "Can you translate it?" Vasquez asked, her concern growing. An advanced alien species sending distress calls in human space could mean many things, none of them simple. Chen worked for another 10 minutes, cross-referencing linguistic databases and running predictive algorithms. When he finally looked up, his expression was grave. "Commander, this is a distress call from a species called the Kitha. According to their message, they are under attack by something called the Void Hunters. Their worlds are being systematically destroyed, and they are requesting immediate assistance from any spacefaring civilization capable of military response." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The Kitha were known to human intelligence services as one of the most peaceful species in the galaxy, masters of advanced technology who had never engaged in warfare with anyone. Their few contacts with human traders had been cordial but brief, as they preferred isolation and scholarly pursuits to galactic politics. "How far away are they?" Vasquez asked, already knowing she would not like the answer. Kim checked her navigation systems. The signal originated from the Kepler 442 system, approximately 18 light-years from our current position. At maximum hyperspace velocity, we could reach them in 6 hours. "What do we know about these void hunters?" Vasquez asked Chen, who was already pulling up intelligence files on his tablet. "Very little, Commander. They're mentioned in a few refugee reports as a nomadic species that appears periodically to attack established civilizations. According to the limited data we have, they don't seem to be interested in conquest or resources. They attack, destroy everything they can, then disappear into deep space. Some xenobiologists theorize they might be some kind of evolutionary throwback, driven by pure destructive instinct." Vasquez studied the tactical displays showing their current position and available resources. The Prometheus was well armed for an exploration vessel, but it was designed for scientific missions and first contact situations, not full-scale military engagements. However, she also knew that Admiral Thorne's Rapid Response Fleet was conducting exercises in a nearby system. "Kim, open a priority channel to Admiral Thorne aboard the UES Valiant. Use quantum encryption and mark it as a potential first contact emergency." The main screen flickered, then showed the weathered face of Admiral Marcus Thorne, a veteran of the corporate wars who had been instrumental in establishing Earth's deep space naval protocols. His gray hair and scarred hands spoke of decades spent protecting human interests in hostile environments. "Commander Vasquez," Thorne said, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to making life-and-death decisions. "Your message mentioned a first contact emergency. What's the situation?" Vasquez quickly briefed the Admiral on the Kitha distress signal and the threat posed by the Void Hunters. As she spoke, she could see Thorne's expression grow more serious. When she finished, he was quiet for several moments, weighing options and calculating risks. "The Kitha have never requested military assistance from anyone," Thorne said finally. "If they're asking for help, the situation must be desperate. I can have 4 ships ready to accompany the Prometheus within 2 hours. The Valiant, the Defiance, the Aurora, and the Ranger. It's not a large force, but it's what we can deploy quickly." "What about command authorization?" Vasquez asked. Military intervention in alien conflicts required approval from Earth's Colonial Council, a process that could take days or weeks. "I'll handle the paperwork later," Thorne replied with a grim smile. "Sometimes command decisions have to be made in the field. If we're wrong, I'll take responsibility. If we're right, there might not be a Kitha civilization left to save if we wait for committee approval." Within 2 hours, 5 human ships had assembled at the designated coordinates. The small fleet represented the best of human engineering and military philosophy, fast, adaptable, and crewed by individuals trained to think creatively under pressure. Each ship carried advanced weapons systems, but more importantly, they carried human crews who had grown up on a world where survival meant constant adaptation to hostile environments. The journey to the Kitha system took exactly 6 hours and 12 minutes, as the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge. The tactical displays lit up with contacts that made every bridge crew member catch their breath. 12 worlds orbited the system's primary star, and 7 of them were under attack. The Void Hunter ships were unlike anything in human databases. Each vessel was massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest human battleship, and their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with predatory grace through space, firing weapons that tore chunks of matter from planetary surfaces and pulled the debris into massive collection bays. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Kim, staring at the tactical display. "They're not just attacking the planets, they're consuming them." Commander Vasquez stood on the Prometheus bridge, studying the horrific scene before them. Around each Kitha world, smaller ships were fleeing the surface, seeking refuge in deep space, while the Void Hunters systematically destroyed their civilization. The mathematical precision of the attack was almost as disturbing as its scope. "Admiral," she said into her communicator, "we're looking at 17 enemy vessels, each significantly larger than our ships. They appear to be using some kind of matter conversion technology to literally eat the planets." Thorne's voice crackled back through the quantum link. "Confirmed, Commander. I'm seeing the same readings. The question is, how do we stop something like this with 5 ships?" Dr. Chen, who had been monitoring Kitha communications, suddenly looked up from his station. "Commander, I'm receiving a direct communication from one of the fleeing ships. They're requesting permission to come aboard." Vasquez made a quick decision. "Grant permission. We need to understand what we're dealing with." 20 minutes later, the human commanders found themselves face to face with their first Kitha representative. Zarake was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed to hold both ancient wisdom and current terror. Her people's natural grace was evident even in her obvious distress, and when she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that made human speech seem crude by comparison. "You are the Deathworlders," she said, using the galactic term for humans that referred to their origin on a planet with a hostile environment. "We had hoped never to need your particular expertise." "We're here to help," Vasquez replied simply. "Tell us about the Void Hunters. How do we fight them?" Zarake's expression became even more troubled. "You cannot fight them in the traditional sense. They are not driven by politics or resources. They consume civilizations the way your predators consume prey. Their ships are powered by the destruction they cause, growing stronger with each world they devour. There has to be a way to stop them." Admiral Thorne interjected. "Every species has weaknesses." "Perhaps," Zarake said, though her tone suggested she had little hope. "But we are a peaceful people. We have never developed weapons of war or tactics of destruction. Our greatest achievements are in science and philosophy, not violence." Dr. Chen leaned forward, his analytical mind working on the problem. "What about their technology? Can you help us understand how their ships function?" For the first time since arriving, Zarake showed a glimmer of hope. "Yes, our sensors have analyzed their energy signatures. Their power systems appear to be based on controlled matter-antimatter reactions, but the scale is beyond anything we previously thought possible." As the humans and Kitha talked, the tactical situation continued to deteriorate. 3 more Kitha worlds had fallen silent, their populations either dead or evacuated. The Void Hunter fleet was methodically working its way through the system, taking time to thoroughly consume each planet before moving to the next. "How long before they finish with this system?" Vasquez asked. "At their current rate, perhaps 2 days," Zarake replied. "Then they will move on to our colony systems. Within a month, the Kitha civilization will be extinct." The human commanders looked at each other, weighing impossible odds against their own principles. They were outnumbered more than 3 to 1 by ships with superior firepower and unknown capabilities. Any reasonable military analysis would recommend retreat and a request for massive reinforcements. But humans had not become a spacefaring species by making reasonable decisions when faced with extinction-level threats. "We're going to stop them," Admiral Thorne announced, his voice carrying absolute conviction. "Commander Vasquez, I want tactical assessments of their ship formations and weapon patterns. Dr. Chen, work with Zarake to understand their technology better. We're going to find a way to turn their own power against them." As the human fleet prepared for battle against overwhelming odds, Zarake watched them with growing amazement. The stories she had heard about Deathworlders spoke of their violence and unpredictability, but what she saw instead was a species willing to risk everything to protect strangers they had never met. The battle for the Kitha system was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans decided something was worth fighting for. The Deathworld advantage. The human fleet moved into attack formation with a precision that impressed even the Kitha observers. Admiral Thorne's tactical experience showed as he positioned his ships to maximize their mobility advantage while minimizing exposure to the Void Hunters' massive firepower. The 5 human vessels looked impossibly small against the backdrop of the enemy fleet, but their crews showed no signs of hesitation. Commander Vasquez studied the tactical display from the Prometheus bridge, analyzing the enemy ship movements and looking for patterns. Her years of experience fighting pirates and corporate raiders had taught her that every enemy had predictable behaviors, even if those patterns weren't immediately obvious. The Void Hunters are operating in groups of 3, she reported to the Fleet Command Channel. They surround each planet in a triangular formation and work systematically from pole to pole. They're incredibly efficient, but that efficiency might be their weakness. Dr. Chen and Sarah Kai had been working together to analyze the Void Hunter technology, combining human tactical thinking with Kitha scientific knowledge. Their collaboration was producing insights that neither species could have reached alone. "Commander," Chen called out, "Zarakai has identified something crucial about their power systems. The matter-antimatter reactions that drive their ships require constant feeding. If they can't consume material for more than 6 hours, their power output begins to decline dramatically. That gives us a window." Admiral Thorne's voice crackled through the communication system. "But we need to prevent them from feeding on the planets while we figure out how to destroy them permanently." Lieutenant Kim suddenly straightened at her station, her eyes widening as she studied the sensor readings. "Admiral, I'm detecting something new. The Void Hunters nearest to us have changed course. 3 of their ships are heading directly toward our position. The enemy ships approached with the same methodical precision they used in planetary consumption. Their dark hulls seemed to drink in the light from nearby stars, making them appear as moving shadows against the cosmic background. As they drew closer, the human sensors began detecting the true scale of their weapon systems. "Energy signatures are off the charts," reported the tactical officer aboard the Valiant. "These things are carrying enough firepower to crack a moon." "All ships, evasive patterns Delta 7. Admiral Thorne commanded. "Let's see what these Void Hunters can do." The first exchange of fire lit up space like a miniature star. The Void Hunter ships unleashed beams of coherent energy that could have cut through a mountain, but the human ships were no longer where the beams were aimed. Years of fighting in asteroid fields and nebula storms had taught human pilots to think in 3 dimensions, using every possible vector of movement to avoid incoming fire. The UES Ranger, commanded by Captain Maria Santos, performed a maneuver that defied conventional space combat doctrine. Instead of trying to match the Void Hunter's firepower, she used her ship's superior acceleration to spiral around the largest enemy vessel, firing rapid pulses at specific points on its hull. "Target their matter intake ports," she broadcast to the other ships. "If we can damage their feeding mechanisms, we can buy time." The human weapons, designed for precision rather than raw destruction, began finding weak points in the Void Hunter ships. Each successful hit caused secondary explosions as the enemy vessel's own absorbed matter became unstable. It was like fighting giants by targeting their joints and pressure points. Zarakai watched the battle from the Prometheus bridge with fascination and growing hope. "Your ships move like living creatures," she observed. "Our people have always viewed space combat as a matter of superior firepower and defensive shields. We never considered that mobility could be a weapon itself. Humans evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill us." Commander Vasquez replied while coordinating her ship's attacks. "We learned to survive by being faster, smarter, and more adaptable than our predators. These Void Hunters might be bigger and stronger, but they're used to fighting civilizations that stand still and try to absorb punishment." The battle continued for 3 hours, with the human fleet using hit-and-run tactics to prevent the Void Hunters from returning to their planetary consumption. But despite their success in avoiding destruction, the humans were not inflicting enough damage to destroy the enemy ships. The Void Hunters' hulls were simply too massive and well-armored for conventional weapons to penetrate. Dr. Chen and Zara Kay had been working frantically during the battle, analyzing every piece of data they could gather about Void Hunter technology. Finally, Chen made a connection that changed everything. "Commander," he called out excitedly, "I think I understand how their ships work. They're not just consuming matter for fuel. They're using the planetary material to continuously rebuild and strengthen their hulls. That's why our weapons aren't causing permanent damage." "But what if we could reverse the process?" Zerakai added, her large eyes bright with inspiration. "Our people have developed quantum field manipulators that can alter matter at the subatomic level. If we could modify your weapons to carry our field generators." Commander Vasquez saw the potential immediately. "We could turn their own absorbed matter against them. Instead of strengthening their hulls, we could make it unstable." Admiral Thorne's voice cut through the communication channel. "How long would it take to implement this modification?" 2 hours, Zerakai replied. "But we would need to work directly with your weapon systems. My people would have to come aboard your ships." It was an unprecedented level of cooperation between the two species, but the situation demanded unprecedented solutions. Within minutes, Kitha technicians were boarding human vessels, bringing their quantum field manipulators and working alongside human engineers to create hybrid weapon systems. The cooperation revealed something remarkable about both species. The Kitha, despite their peaceful nature, showed incredible courage in working aboard ships actively engaged in combat. The humans, despite their reputation for aggressive independence, welcomed the alien technicians as partners rather than subordinates. Chief Engineer Rodriguez aboard the Defiance worked side by side with a Kitha scientist named Tellerun, combining human engineering pragmatism with Kitha theoretical knowledge. "Your people think in equations," Rodriguez observed as they calibrated the field generators. "My people think in terms of what breaks and how to fix it. Together, we might actually solve this." The modified weapons were ready just as the Void Hunters launched their most aggressive attack yet. Apparently frustrated by the humans' evasive tactics, the enemy ships had abandoned their methodical approach and were now actively hunting the human fleet with coordinated attack patterns. "This is it," Admiral Thorne announced to all ships. "We get one chance to test these new weapons. All ships, target the Lid Void Hunter vessel. Fire on my mark." The 5 human ships coordinated their attack with precision that would have been impossible without weeks of training, but somehow they managed to synchronize their fire perfectly. The modified weapons struck the largest Void Hunter ship simultaneously, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the enemy vessel began to glow from within. The quantum field manipulators were doing exactly what Zerakai had predicted. The matter that the Void Hunter ship had absorbed from destroyed planets was becoming unstable, releasing energy in an uncontrolled cascade reaction. The ship's own hull began tearing itself apart, as absorbed material converted to energy faster than the vessel's systems could handle. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The destruction of their flagship seemed to shock the remaining Void Hunters into a new behavioral pattern. Instead of continuing their systematic attack, they began clustering together defensively, apparently unsure how to respond to weapons that turned their own strength against them. "Now we press the advantage," Admiral Thorne commanded. "All ships, attack pattern Omega. Target their clustered formation with everything we have." The final battle lasted only 30 minutes. The Void Hunters, for all their massive size and destructive capability, had never encountered an enemy that could adapt their tactics in real time. The human Kitha weapon modifications proved devastatingly effective, causing chain reactions that destroyed multiple enemy ships with each successful hit. When the last Void Hunter vessel exploded in a cascade of uncontrolled energy, the star system fell silent except for the quiet hum of human ship engines and the grateful communications from Kitha survivors throughout the system. Zerakai stood on the Prometheus bridge, tears streaming down her face as she watched her people's ships emerging from hiding places throughout the system. Millions of Kitha had survived because a small human fleet had chosen to fight against impossible odds. "Why?" she asked Commander Vasquez. Why did your people risk everything for strangers? Vasquez considered the question seriously before answering. Because that's what intelligent species do for each other. We've all got the same enemies: entropy, extinction, and the dark between the stars. When someone calls for help, you answer. Admiral Thorne's image appeared on the main screen, his weathered face showing satisfaction mixed with exhaustion. Excellent work, everyone. The Void Hunter fleet has been completely destroyed, and Kitha rescue operations are underway throughout the system. Dr. Chen, who had been monitoring galactic communication networks, looked up with an interesting expression. Admiral, Commander, you should know that news of this battle is already spreading throughout the galaxy. The quantum communications we used were apparently monitored by multiple species. What kind of news? Vasquez asked. According to the preliminary reports I'm seeing, most galactic civilizations are calling this the first time anyone has successfully defeated a Void Hunter attack. The combined human-Kitha tactics are being studied by military analysts across dozens of species. Zarakai wiped her eyes and stood straighter, her natural dignity returning as the immediate crisis passed. Commander Vasquez, Admiral Thorne, on behalf of the Kitha people, I would like to propose a formal alliance between our civilizations. Your people have shown us that survival sometimes requires the willingness to fight. And we have technologies that could benefit your exploration and defense efforts. The partnership that emerged from the Battle of Kepler 442 would eventually reshape galactic politics. The human reputation as Deathworlders evolved from a term of fear to one of respect, as other species learned that humans brought death only to those who threatened the innocent. More importantly, the cooperation between humans and Kitha became a model for other alliances throughout the galaxy. The combination of human adaptability and alien knowledge proved that the greatest strength of any civilization was not its weapons or technology, but its willingness to stand together against the darkness. As the human fleet prepared to escort Kitha refugees to safety, Commander Vasquez reflected on the day's events. They had come to answer a distress call and ended up forging a friendship that would last for generations. In a galaxy full of wonders and terrors, that seemed like a pretty good day's work. The Void Hunters were gone, but the alliance they had inadvertently created would ensure that no other peaceful civilization would have to face extinction alone. The Deathworlders had proven once again that the greatest human strength was not their willingness to die, but their refusal to let others die while they could still fight. In the end, that was what made them truly dangerous to the darkness between the stars.